What happens when two of country music's biggest voices sit down for what should be a simple interview, and it turns into a confrontation that ends with one of them walking off set for good? The exchange between Kelly Clarkson and Miranda Lambert started with tension, escalated into something nobody saw coming, and concluded with a decision that shocked the entire entertainment industry. What was said in those final moments that made Kelly decide she was done? Stay until the end, because the last thing Miranda said will completely change how you see this whole situation. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, telling me whose side you're on after hearing what actually went down. Trust me, you're going to have opinions. The studio audience had no idea what they were about to witness. Kelly Clarkson walked onto her set that afternoon with her usual energy, that genuine warmth she's known for, greeting the crowd with waves and smiles. The show had been her refuge, her place to connect with people, to laugh, to cry, to celebrate music and stories. She'd built something real here, something that felt like home. Miranda Lambert was scheduled as the guest, someone Kelly had known for years through the tangled web of the music industry. They'd crossed paths at award shows, shared stages at benefit concerts, exchanged pleasantries in green rooms, but they'd never really talked. Not deeply, not honestly. As Miranda walked out, there was something different in her expression. Not hostile exactly, but guarded. She sat down across from Kelly, and the cameras started rolling. Kelly began with her standard approach, easy and conversational. "Miranda, it's so good to have you here. I feel like we've been orbiting each other for years, but never really got to sit down like this." Miranda adjusted herself in the chair, her jaw set. "Yeah, well, I'm here now." There was a pause, brief but noticeable. Kelly pressed forward, her smile steady. "Your new album has been getting incredible reviews. I was listening to it last week, and there's this rawness to it, this vulnerability. Was that intentional, or did it just come out that way?" "I write what I feel," Miranda said, her tone clipped. "I don't really think about whether it's vulnerable or raw, or whatever label people want to put on it. I just tell the truth." Kelly nodded, trying to find the rhythm. "The truth is powerful. I think that's why people connect with your music. There's this authenticity that comes through." "You would know about authenticity," Miranda said. And there was an edge to it that made Kelly's eyebrows raise slightly. "What do you mean by that?" Miranda leaned back, crossing her arms. "I mean, you've built this whole brand on being relatable, right? The girl next door who won a singing competition and stayed humble. Everyone loves Kelly because she's just so real, so down to earth." Kelly's smile faltered for just a second. "I don't think of it as a brand, Miranda. It's just who I am." "Is it though?" Miranda's eyes were sharp now. "Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you figured out exactly what people want to hear and you give it to them. Every interview, every appearance, it's the same performance." The studio went quiet. This wasn't banter anymore. Kelly's producer was likely having a heart attack in the booth, but Kelly kept her composure, though her voice had lost some of its warmth. "I'm not performing anything. I'm being myself. If people connect with that, I'm grateful. But I've never pretended to be something I'm not," Miranda said. And the skepticism was heavy. "You've never calculated a response, never thought about how something would play before you said it. You're just naturally perfect for the camera." Kelly felt something tighten in her chest. Years of interviews, years of maintaining grace under pressure, years of being the professional, they all suddenly felt very heavy. "Miranda, I don't know what this is about, but if you've got something to say to me, just say it." "Fine." Miranda uncrossed her arms and leaned forward. "I'm tired of the act. I'm tired of watching people in this industry pretend they're something they're not for applause. You want to talk about authenticity? Let's talk about how you left country music the second it was convenient. How you pivoted to pop when that's where the money was. And now you sit here interviewing country artists like you're still one of us." Kelly's face flushed. "I didn't leave country music, Miranda. I explored different sounds because that's what artists do. We grow. We evolve." "You abandoned it," Miranda shot back. "And now you've got this talk show where you get to play music expert, where you get to interview people who stayed loyal to the genre you walked away from. You get to ask us about authenticity while you're sitting there having reinvented yourself a half dozen times to stay relevant." The words hung in the air like smoke. Kelly could feel the eyes of the audience on her, could sense the cameras capturing every micro-expression. Part of her wanted to end this right now, to cut to commercial, to have Miranda escorted out. But another part of her, the part that had always valued honesty even when it hurt, wanted to hear this. Needed to hear this? You think I reinvented myself to stay relevant. Kelly's voice was quieter now, but there was steel in it. I think you did what you had to do, Miranda said. And there's nothing wrong with that. But don't sit here and act like you're some beacon of authenticity when you've changed your entire image, your sound, your brand, everything multiple times to keep the spotlight on you. Kelly took a breath, measuring her words carefully. I changed because I wanted to make different music. I changed because I grew as a person. Those changes were real, Miranda. They weren't calculated. They were survival. Survival, Miranda repeated almost mockingly. You were at the top of the charts. You had everything. What exactly were you surviving? The version of me that everyone else needed me to be, Kelly said. And for the first time since this exchange started, there was something completely unguarded in her voice. I was suffocating under the weight of expectations, under the pressure to be the person people decided I was the moment I won that competition. So yes, I changed. I explored. I grew. And I'm not going to apologize for that. Miranda stared at her for a long moment. At least you're being honest now. I've always been honest. No, Miranda said firmly. You've always been polished. There's a difference. Kelly felt something crack inside her. A dam that had been holding back years of frustration. Years of smiling through criticism. Years of being everything to everyone except herself. Polished, she repeated slowly. You say that like it's a crime. Like presenting yourself professionally. Like treating people with respect. Like trying to make your audience feel good. Like that's somehow fake. It is when it becomes a mask, Miranda said. When it becomes the only thing people see. When you're so busy being polished that nobody knows who you actually are anymore. And you think you know who I am. I think you don't even know who you are. Miranda fired back. I think you've spent so long being what other people want that you've lost track of the real Kelly Clarkson. If she ever existed in the first place. The audience was dead silent. This had gone beyond uncomfortable television. This was raw, real confrontation, and nobody knew how to react. Kelly's hands were trembling slightly, but she kept them steady on the armrests of her chair. You don't get to make that judgment about me, Kelly said, her voice low but intense. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the battles I've fought. The times I've had to defend myself. The moments I've stood up when it would have been easier to just go along. You see polish and you assume it's fake. Maybe the polish is what keeps me sane. Maybe the polish is how I survive in an industry that chews people up and spits them out. Miranda didn't back down. Or maybe the polish is how you avoid ever having to be vulnerable. Ever having to show people that you're not perfect. That you struggle. That you're human. I've talked about my struggles, Kelly protested. I've been open about my divorce. About my weight. About the pressure. About all of it. You've talked about them in the safest possible way, Miranda countered. You've packaged your struggles into nice little sound bites that make people feel inspired. That's not vulnerability, Kelly. That's marketing. Kelly stood up abruptly, and the movement sent a shock through the studio. She wasn't walking off. Not yet. But she needed to move. Needed to not be sitting there like she was on trial. You came on my show to tear me down. Why? What did I ever do to you? Miranda stood as well, matching her energy. You didn't do anything to me specifically. But you represent everything I can't stand about this industry. The performative kindness. The calculated authenticity. The way people like you get celebrated for being nice, while people like me get called difficult for being honest. People like you, Kelly repeated. You mean people who use honesty as a weapon? Who mistake cruelty for truth-telling? Yeah, Miranda. You're honest. You're brutally, painfully honest. But honesty without compassion is just meanness dressed up as virtue. Miranda's eyes flashed. And compassion without honesty is just people-pleasing. You want everyone to like you so badly that you'll never tell them the truth if it might make them uncomfortable. That's not true, is it? Miranda pressed. When's the last time you had a real disagreement with someone on this show? When's the last time you challenged a guest? Pushed back on something they said? Made anyone feel even slightly uncomfortable? You're so desperate to be loved that you've turned this show into an echo chamber where everyone just agrees with each other, and everything is wonderful. Kelly's voice rose, and for the first time, the audience could hear genuine anger in it. This show is a place where people can feel safe, where they can share their stories without being attacked, where they can be celebrated instead of torn down. If that makes me a people-pleaser, fine. I'd rather be that than someone who uses their platform to make people feel small. I don't make people feel small, Miranda said. I make people face reality. There's a difference. Your reality, Kelly shot back. Your version of the truth. And everyone who sees it differently is just fake. Just performing. Just scared. Did it ever occur to you that maybe people aren't scared of being real? Maybe they're just different from you. Maybe their version of authenticity looks different than yours. Miranda paused, and for a moment something flickered across her face. Doubt maybe. Or recognition. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. I came here thinking maybe we could have a real conversation. I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd drop the act long enough to actually talk to me like a human being. But you can't. You're too far gone. Kelly laughed, but there was no humor in it. You came here looking for a fight. Don't pretend this was about having a conversation. You wanted to prove something. To tear me down on my own show. To show everyone that Kelly Clarkson is a fraud. Well, congratulations, Miranda. You've made your point. You've made me look bad in front of my audience. You've created a moment. Is that what you wanted? What I wanted, Miranda said, her voice dropping lower, more intense, was for you to be real for once. To admit that this whole thing is exhausting. That pretending to be perfect all the time is killing you. That maybe, just maybe, you're tired of being Kelly Clarkson the brand, and you want to be Kelly the person. The words hit harder than Kelly expected, because buried in the attack, buried in all the hostility, there was a grain of truth she'd been avoiding. She was tired. She was exhausted from always having to be on. From always having to perform, even when the performance was just being herself. But she wasn't going to give Miranda the satisfaction of admitting it. You think you're helping me right now? Kelly asked. You think this tough love approach is going to crack me open, and we're going to have some beautiful breakthrough moment? This isn't help, Miranda. This is you projecting your own issues onto me. My issues? Miranda's voice went sharp again. Yes, your issues, Kelly said firmly. You're so proud of being difficult. Of being the one who tells it like it is. Of being authentic no matter what. But maybe that's your performance. Maybe that's your brand, the outlaw, the rebel, the one who doesn't play by the rules. You've built your entire career on being the anti-establishment country star. So don't come at me about authenticity when you're just as calculated as anyone else. Miranda's face went red. I have never calculated anything. Everything I do comes from here, she pointed to her chest. Not from some marketing meeting. Really? Kelly challenged. Every controversial statement, every feud, every time you've called someone out publicly, that all just happened organically. None of that was designed to maintain your image as the tough, no-nonsense, real country artist. That's who I am. And being kind is who I am, Kelly said. But you can't accept that because it doesn't fit your worldview. In your world, nice people are fake and mean people are real. But it's not that simple, Miranda. Some of us are actually kind. Some of us actually care about making people feel good. And that doesn't make us frauds. Miranda shook her head slowly. You really believe that, don't you? You really think you're just naturally this perfect, kind, lovely person. I didn't say I was perfect. I said I was kind. And yes, I believe that. I work at it every day because the alternative is becoming bitter and angry and using my pain as an excuse to hurt other people. The implication hung in the air between them. Miranda's expression hardened. You think I'm bitter? I think you're hurt, Kelly said, and her voice softened slightly. I think something or someone hurt you badly, and instead of dealing with it, you turned it into armor. You made it your identity, and now you can't take it off because without it you'd have to face whatever it is you're running from. Miranda's eyes went cold, colder than they'd been this entire exchange. Don't psychoanalyze me, Kelly. You're not my therapist. No, I'm not, Kelly agreed. But I am someone who's been where you are. I've been angry. I wanted to burn it all down. I wanted to tell everyone exactly what I thought of them without filtering it. And you know what stopped me? Not fear, not people-pleasing. The realization that my anger was only hurting me. That lashing out might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't heal anything. I don't need healing, Miranda said coldly. I need people to stop lying to each other and calling it kindness. And I need people to stop hurting each other and calling it honesty, Kelly countered. We're at an impasse here, Miranda. You think I'm fake. I think you're cruel. Neither of us is going to change the other's mind. Miranda stared at her for a long moment, and then something shifted in her expression. Not softening exactly, but a kind of resigned clarity. You're right. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come here. Why did you come here? Kelly asked, genuinely wanting to know. If you hate everything I represent, if you think I'm such a fraud, why agree to be on my show? Miranda was quiet for several seconds, long enough that the silence became oppressive. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, stripped of some of its edge. Because part of me wanted to be wrong about you. Part of me wanted to sit down and have you prove that it's not all an act. That someone can be successful and kind and real all at the same time. But you couldn't do it. I couldn't do it? Kelly's voice rose again. Miranda, I've been nothing but real with you this entire conversation. I've let you attack me, question me, tear apart everything I've built, and I've engaged with you honestly. What more do you want? I want you to admit that it's hard, Miranda said. Suddenly, there was something almost desperate in her voice. I want you to admit that being in this industry, being in the spotlight, constantly having to perform, whether you're on stage or off, that it breaks something in you. I want you to admit that you're not okay. That none of us are okay. That we're all just pretending and hoping nobody notices. Kelly stopped. Really stopped. She looked at Miranda, actually looked at her, and suddenly she saw it. The thing underneath all the hostility, all the attacks. Fear. Loneliness. The terror of being the only one struggling while everyone else seemed fine. Miranda, Kelly said quietly, I'm not okay all the time. I have days where I can barely get out of bed. I have moments where I hate everything about this life I've built. I have nights where I cry myself to sleep, wondering if any of it means anything. But I also have good days. I have moments of real joy. I have connections with people that matter. And I've worked really hard to focus on those things instead of drowning in the darkness. That's not what you show people, Miranda said, but her voice had lost its bite. Because showing people my worst moments, my darkest thoughts, my deepest struggles, that wouldn't help them, Kelly explained. It would just make them feel worse. My job, the way I see it, is to be a light. Not to pretend darkness doesn't exist, but to show people that you can survive it. And my job is to be honest about the darkness, Miranda said. Then we're not that different, Kelly offered. We're just approaching it from different angles. Miranda shook her head slowly. No, Kelly. We are different. Fundamentally different. And that's okay. But I can't be here anymore. I can't sit in this studio, under these lights, having this conversation that's going nowhere. So, you're leaving? I'm leaving, Miranda confirmed. She turned slightly as if to go, then turned back. For what it's worth, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're doing the best you can with what you've got. We all are. Then why all of this? Kelly gestured at the space between them. Why come here and attack me if you don't think I'm a bad person? Miranda took a breath, and when she spoke, it was the most honest she'd been all afternoon. Because watching you be okay makes it harder for me to justify not being okay. Because if you can smile and be kind and make it work, then what's my excuse? Why am I still angry? Why am I still fighting? Maybe it's easier to believe you're fake than to accept that some people actually figure it out. The confession hung in the air, raw and painful. Kelly felt something shift in her chest. A complicated mix of compassion and exhaustion. Miranda, you can figure it out too. It's not too late. Maybe, Miranda said. But not here. Not like this. She looked around the studio at the camera still rolling, at the audience frozen in their seats. This whole thing, it's everything I hate about this industry. The performance of it all. The cameras catching every moment for content. The audience sitting there judging, deciding who's right and who's wrong. I can't do this anymore. She walked toward the exit, and Kelly watched her go, feeling the weight of everything that had just happened pressing down on her shoulders. The producer was undoubtedly screaming into someone's ear, trying to figure out how to salvage this, whether to cut to commercial, whether to end the show entirely. But Kelly wasn't thinking about any of that. She was thinking about Miranda's words. About being a performance. About the cameras always rolling. About the audience always watching. She looked out at the sea of faces staring back at her, waiting for her to do something, to say something, to fix this moment and make it palatable. And suddenly she was so tired. You know what? Kelly said, loud enough that Miranda stopped at the edge of the stage. You're right. Miranda turned back, confused. What? You're right, Kelly repeated. This is a performance. All of it. Not the way you meant it. Not that I'm being fake, but that everything is for consumption. Every moment is content. Every conversation is fodder for clips and reactions and think pieces. I can't have a real moment because the cameras are always on. I can't be vulnerable because it'll be turned into a meme. I can't be angry because I'll be called difficult. I can't be sad because I'll be called depressing. I can't just be human because humans aren't good television. The studio was completely silent. Kelly looked directly at the camera, at the unblinking red light that had been her constant companion for years. I started this show because I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to share stories and music and moments that mattered. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about connection and started being about content. About ratings and clips and viral moments. And I'm tired. I'm so tired of performing my own life. She turned to her producer in the booth, knowing he could hear her. I'm done. Not just with this episode. With all of it. I'm done with the show. The words came out calmly, almost peacefully, and that somehow made them more shocking than if she'd screamed them. The audience gasped, a collective intake of breath that sounded like a wave. Miranda stood frozen at the edge of the stage, her expression unreadable. Kelly, Miranda started. But Kelly held up a hand. No, don't. This isn't your fault. You were right about one thing. I've been holding myself together with polish and professionalism and positivity, and I didn't realize how much it was costing me. You asked me to be real, and here's the real truth. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to smile through pain. I don't want to turn my struggles into inspirational content. I don't want to be Kelly Clarkson, the talk show host. I want to be Kelly Clarkson, the person, whoever that is. She looked back at the audience, at their shocked faces, their open mouths. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you came here to see today, but I can't keep giving you pieces of myself and calling it a show. I need to figure out who I am when the cameras aren't rolling, and I can't do that here. Kelly walked off the stage, leaving Miranda standing there alone, leaving the audience in stunned silence, leaving the cameras still rolling on an empty set. She didn't look back. She didn't wave. She didn't try to soften the blow or make it easier for anyone to digest. She just left. In the hallway, away from the lights and the audience and the expectations, Kelly leaned against the wall and let out a long, shaky breath. She'd just ended her show, walked away from a massive contract, threw away years of work, all because Miranda Lambert had pushed her buttons. Except it wasn't really about Miranda, was it? Miranda had just been the catalyst. The person who finally said out loud what Kelly had been feeling for months, maybe years. The truth was, she'd been drowning in her own success, suffocating under the weight of being the person everyone needed her to be. And it took someone calling her fake, someone questioning her authenticity, for her to realize that the fakest thing she'd been doing was pretending she wanted to keep doing this. She thought about Miranda's final words before Kelly's revelation. About how watching Kelly be okay made it harder to justify not being okay. Maybe they'd both been performing, just in different ways. Maybe neither of them had it figured out. Maybe that was the most authentic thing either of them could admit. Kelly pushed off the wall and started walking toward her dressing room. She'd have to deal with the fallout. With the network. With the press. With everyone who'd want an explanation or an apology or a plan. But right now, in this moment, she felt lighter than she had in years. She'd made a choice. She'd chosen herself. And whatever came next, it would be real. So now, I want to hear from you. What do you think Miranda Lambert said or did after Kelly walked off that stage? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, because we're just getting started with stories like